Hello, I'm Valerie Young, board member of Arlington Independent Media. We have been producing conversations with Arlington County candidates so that you can make an intelligent vote. Our next series features candidates for the Arlington County Board. They will be talking with our panel. Karen Bate, founder and CEO, KB Concepts, and the 2022 recipient of the Arlington Women of Vision Award. Saul Reyes, executive director, Bugata. Vivian Williams, Washington Liberty High School class of 2023. In this episode, we will be speaking with Tony Weaver.
Hi, Tony. What motivated you to run for county board?
Karen, yeah, I'd say that many things have kind of motivated me and inspired me to run for county board. I've been very involved with service most of my life. During the pandemic, I felt as if I didn't really have the voice and ability to help my community in the way that I would have liked. And that was kind of a moment where it was kind of a wake-up call. I'd been very involved with my family business. I'm a tech entrepreneur, and involved with the Rotary Club. I've served as the president of the Rotary Club. So during that moment, I just felt that there was so much more that I could be doing if I were more engaged with the community. Over the last, 18 months, I've been incredibly concerned about the commercial office vacancy rate. I serve on the Fiscal Affairs Advisory Commission, and we're starting to see cuts get made in terms of employee vacant positions being eliminated, capital projects being delayed, and when that happens, the level of service that the county can deliver to the members of our community goes down. And for me, that's incredibly concerning because oftentimes those who need it most face some of the initial cuts. And having been involved with Rotary, I'm deeply connected, and I know how much many of the members of our community really need the services that the county is delivering. I work with our scholarship program, and so throughout this campaign, I was actually evaluating applications, many of whom have parents who make under $30,000, $40,000 a year and live right here in Arlington. And I think that a lot of the members of our community can't really understand viscerally what that means to make that little amount of money and still be faced with the huge cost of living here in Arlington. So those are the things that are the biggest concerns for me. I think it's incredibly important to be focused on bringing in new companies to Arlington so that we can stabilize and grow revenues so that we can deliver services to specifically those members of our community. That's the thing that really kind of gets me excited in the morning.
Thank you. My generation is often overlooked, especially given that some of us cannot yet vote. However, we will be the next leaders and make the next big decisions. We believe in inclusivity and solving the problems the older generations could not. How will you help represent and advocate for a generation you yourself are not a part of?
Yeah, so I'm 34 years old, and so I feel that I can bridge the gap between some of the younger members of our community and some of the older members of the community. On the one hand, I've served, like I said, as the president of the Arlington Rotary Club. I'm the board of directors for the Committee of 100. These tend to skew a little older in terms of members of our community. But as a 34-year-old, I can also connect with younger members of our community. I've got a niece and a nephew here in the county. My nephew Lewis is 12. And I'm very involved with his life and looking at the concerns that he's facing, particularly dealing with the post-pandemic learning loss. That's something that ranges from kids as very young kids, but also to 17, 18-year-olds. The lack of socialization that happened during that 2-year period, particularly in some of those critical ages. I think that having that familial connection to the community is a big way that I can do it. But hey, I'm 34 years young, so I think that I can also still connect with folks who are either in college or recently graduating from college in a way that it might be a little more difficult for somebody who's a little bit, I'm not gonna say older, but just different stage in their life might have trouble.
Thank you. Tony, what strategies do you believe will be most effective in implementing programs that cater to the economic and racial diverse community in Arlington, with a particular focus on supporting the immigrant population?
Yeah, so I think we should put more resources towards education. That's like #1 for me. Particularly, I think we need to provide more after-school programs. I think we need to have more summer camp programs. They need to be more equitable. A summer camp enrollment system where you have to get online at midnight and click the button nonstop in order to get your kid into summer camp is unacceptable. I think that we need to make sure that, one, we got the resources there. This is a place, several years ago, summer camps, a lot of them got cut. I mean, programs and funding got cut, and I think that's a huge mistake. And when we're looking at crime and upticks in crime, I think there's this knee-jerk response that we often have to say, hey, we need more policing. I think that's just a total not the way to go. I think you need to be thinking about prevention. You need to make sure that before kids start getting involved with drugs, alcohol, and violence, you nip it in the bud. You've got opportunities for those kids so they're not going down the wrong path, right? I want to see, more kids having a clear path to college from, very early on, and maybe a little bit forward thing to say preschool, but really when you think about putting resources towards education, that's where your money goes the furthest, right? So making sure that we start kind of very early on, putting resources towards education, making sure that every child in Arlington is on track to go to college. I think every kid in this county should have a real opportunity to go to college. That's something that I just feel incredibly strongly. My work with Rotary has been largely around education, and I think that that is something that can't be overstated. So education, that's where I look when I think about how we can serve our community. Housing, of course, is also something that you can't be not overlooked. It's so expensive to live here. I think that affordable housing grants, putting more resources towards that, putting more resources towards AHIP, also very important. But for me, education just seems to be really the way to keep kids on the right track to go to college, rather than get in trouble and end up in areas where they aren't necessarily doing so great.
Thank you. In 2020, during the peaceful protests that followed the murder of George Floyd on video by police, the Arlington County Police was called to action by the former police chief to protect the president while he made disparaging remarks about the protesters. How would you plan to ensure ACPD has clear guidelines against racial and economic bias while fulfilling their mission to keep us safe?
Yeah, I think that was just a despicable behavior on our president. The guy has, it seems like, whenever he's reached, you think he's reached a low in all time. I mean, he kind of exceeds your expectations. So one, I think that we need to be thinking about making sure that our police are appropriately resourced. And when I say that, I think that what I would like to see is an easier path to become an officer here in the county. Right now we require 60 hours, I believe, of college credits to become an officer. I would like to see it easier to become an officer and apply. That way we ensure adequate staffing. One huge problem that we see across any sort of managerial or if you're looking at outcomes, if you have people who are working overtime, they tend to make bad decisions. So if we can eliminate overtime to the best extent possible, I think it is a better use of resources. More directly to the question, from an equity standpoint, we need to be looking at what our officers are spending their time doing, right? And so when I think about what I want cops on the street doing, it's not pulling people over for traffic infractions. It's not for minor offenses. When we see police do that, invariably they disproportionately target minorities, and that is unacceptable, right? And so for me, making sure that cops are not spending their time, the last study I saw, it was like 25% of police hours go towards like minor traffic violations, right? I mean, as a community, is that really what we need? And there's little correlation between increased policing on traffic violations and improved community outcomes or improved traffic behavior. So we're basically just throwing away 25% of our budget towards something that disproportionately results in higher arrest rates for minorities. And once you get an arrest on your record, wow, I mean, your upward social mobility is out the window. I mean, it is incredibly hard to get a job. If you do end up going back to college, you still have to deal with that arrest the rest of your life. I mean, there's some expungement opportunities, but they're very modest. So that's really what I would be focused on, making sure that we're having cops focused on violent crime and areas that improve our community in a real substantive way, and not just doing what we've always done. And it's because I don't think that our police are focused on certain things because they have any nefarious purposes. I just think that, like, we've done things a certain way for so long, people kind of get bureaucratically into the habit of continuing to do that. I mean, if you look at our budgetary allocation, how do we allocate our budget? 9 times out of 10, what we do is we look at what we spent last year, multiply it by the rate of inflation, and that's what we got, right? And we just got to get out of that mindset and really think about, okay, is the money spent on policing actually having a positive impact on our community? And if it is, great. If it's not, got to change.
So a topic that is not only important in Arlington, but on a global level is climate change. How do you plan to approach your role on the county board through the lens of climate change? Again, very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great question because I think it really ties into our connection with youth, kind of an earlier question that was asked. When I talk to people my age and folks who are just graduating college, they have this fear, right, about what the future is going to hold. I mean, do they want to have kids, right? I mean, if you're in a world where you walk out the door and you can't see, 300 feet without a haze, right? You got an orange sky because smoke coming from wildfires from Canada. I mean, that is just something that creates this dread, and I think that we have to face that head on. Arlington County is one of the most progressive counties in the country/world. We need to make sure that we're building out electric vehicle charging infrastructure. We need to make sure that we're doing it fast. We need to make sure we're encouraging public transit so that we get people using buses. I'd like to see fares eliminated for buses so that we get more people on there. We've seen it in Richmond. It works.
Yeah. And Tony, I want to ask you a question. As you know, 65% of Arlingtonians are renters.
Mm-hmm.
And affordable housing is key to preserving community. And, the county board has been implementing the Affordable Housing Master Plan by investing record amounts in the Affordable Housing Investment Fund, as well as the Housing Grants Program and in eviction prevention. And with the recent acquisition of the Barcroft Apartments, what strategies would you use to provide housing to Barcroft residents who are below 30% of the area median income? And do you have any suggestions on how we can make more affordability at Barcroft?
Yeah, so I think that we need to have a higher proportion of the units at Barcroft allocated to 30% area median income folks. Mm-hmm. I think that that's something that we've looked at with Gyre Lynch. Initially, they were not, they didn't really allocate nearly enough, and following pressure, they shifted in that direction. So for me, I think we should really be pushing on the nonprofit developers here in the county to make sure that they're delivering on that. I think we need more creative solutions. There's a recent project approved with Goodwill that is redeveloping the Goodwill to include affordable housing. These are the type of creative options that we need to be looking towards our nonprofit partners in the county to help solve this problem. And I think that that's just such a great case study, because what other nonprofits have high-value real estate who also have the desire and intention to help solve this problem and are willing to partner with the county, with nonprofit developers to help increase the total number of units for folks in that category. And we have to be doing this. If you look at the number of market rate affordables over the last 20 years, it has just been a precipitous decline.
Thank you.
And you look at it, and it's deeply concerning.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you all. It's been wonderful to be here tonight.